I've done several videos on buying homes, selling homes. I did a video a couple weeks ago about maybe you should rent. A listener said, "Hey Joe, what about rent to own?" Well, you know what? That's what I'm talking about today. Stick around. Hi, welcome back. My name's Joe Brown. I'm a realtor with Century 21, List with Beggins, located in South Tampa. Thank you so much for being here with me today. So one of the listeners, Talon, sent me a note and said, "Hey Joe, can you share information about rent to own?" And I said, absolutely. Now, there's good news and bad news, right? There are rent-to-own programs, and they differ, and they can be complicated. So just bear with me as I walk through some of this. And listen, there are probably many, many more programs out there. I'm going to share two programs and then a couple different options. So just real basic, what is a rent-to-own? It's kind of like a buddy buy right, that you go in and you make monthly payments, and at the end of the term, you own the tool or furniture or whatever you're renting. It's the same idea with a house, that you make monthly payments, and at the end, you should own the home. Well, there's one program called Home Partners of America, and I do represent Home Partners of America. And here's the general concept, that if there's a house you like, but you can't afford right now, so there's only two options. One, you can't afford the house, or you're not sure if you want to commit to buying that house, Home Partners of America will come in and buy the house for you and turn around and rent it to you. But here's the catch. You have the right to buy the house. Doesn't mean you have to buy the house. So it could be, and you have that right for 5 years. So maybe after 1 year you say, "I don't like the neighborhood, I don't like the house." You can move out. Home Partners of America still owns the house. Nothing that you paid in rent is going towards the purchase of the house, right? Everything you pay is just pure rent. And if you decide that you want to buy the house, you'll have to come up with down payment, closing costs, and all those essentials, right? So Home Partners of America, you have the right to buy the house while you rent it. You do not have to buy it, but what you pay does not go towards the purchase of the house. Now, one of the great benefits of Home Partners of America is ahead of time for 5 years, what the rent is going to be every month for 5 years, and what the purchase price of the house is going to be for 5 years. So let's say in the third year you decide to buy the house, well, you know what the purchase price is going to be. The benefit to that is, and I just saw something the other day, home prices in the Tampa area have gone up, 4%? No, 3% year to date already, 3% year to date. So if this trend continues, maybe it goes up 4%, 5% this year. Well, Home Partners of America is locked in. Home price will not go up more than 3% a year. So if you're in the house and you see home prices are accelerating, well, if you buy the house, you have built-in equity. So that's Home Partners of America, that's option one. A second option is called Divi, D-I-V-V-Y. And again, I represent Divi. And again, same concept. You find a house they like, Divi will buy the house and rent it to you, but they will charge you a little bit more each month than the standard rent. So I'm just making numbers up, right? Don't hold me to it. So let's say you find a house and the rent is $2,100 a month. Well, Divi may charge you $2,300 or $2,400 a month, but that difference between the standard rent and what you're paying goes towards the purchase of the house. It goes towards a down payment, goes towards closing costs, whatever. And again, you can walk away from the deal and recapture that extra money you've put aside. It's a forced savings. So that's Divi, very similar to Home Partners, except Divi is that forced savings. So what you're paying goes towards the purchase of the house. Now here's a third option, and really there's a couple different, 3, 4 could be combined. So you could find somebody in the neighborhood. It's called off market, right? You talk to a neighbor says, yes, I want to sell the house. And you say, listen, let me live here and I will pay you to buy the house. And listen, some sellers agree to it, right? You enter into an agreement that you pay so much a month for a certain amount of time, and you buy the house at the end of that time. You have got to get a lawyer, and I would say this on the seller side. The seller needs to get a lawyer to draw up that purchase contract. Now, you as the buyer will want your attorney to review that document. And here's why. The lawyer works for who pays them. So if the seller pays the lawyer is going to protect the seller. You want to have your attorney review the contract because your attorney will protect your interests. And then they can work the contract out. Yes, there are fees and expenses involved in getting the lawyers involved. But it's to your mutual benefit, buyer and seller. And it could very well be everything you pay goes towards the purchase of the house. Or only a portion, 50% goes towards the purchase of the house. It depends on how the contract is made up, drawn up. So that is an option. Find a house you like, talk to the seller. And so in MLS, agents can search by seller financing. So are there homes on the market that the seller is willing to finance? That means the seller fronts the money. And it could be just for a short period of time. It could be for 5 years, right? I'll front you living here for 5 years, but at the end of 5 years, you have to pay off the purchase of the house, which means if you don't have the cash, you have to get financing to buy the house. Now, here's the fourth option, right? I said 3 and 4 go together. You could have a very good friend, you could have a family member who buys the house with the intention of you buying it from them over time. So they buy the house, you pay them monthly payments until, right, is it 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, till you purchase the house. There are some cautions through all this. And I had to write them down, so if you think I'm reading, I am. So number one, you have got to understand the contract. I said earlier, seller's going to have their lawyer, buyer's going to have their lawyer. They're going to work together for mutual benefit. But you as the buyer, you as the seller have to understand the contract and what it says in the contract. Are they going to charge interest? What's the interest rate? Is it a variable interest? Is it a fixed interest? What's the term? Is it 15 years, 25 years, 30 years? Number two, and because lawyers are involved, you know they'll do this, everything must be in writing. It's one thing to say, hey, Talon, how about you and I, you buy my house, you pay me $500 a month until it's paid off, right? Well, then 7 months from now, I can say, hey, Talon's not paying me right. It's supposed to be $1,000 a month. And you say, Joe, you said 500. Then it's a battle of words. Who's right? That's why you write everything down. Number three, even with a rent to own, you have to be prepared to put a down payment down. Is that redundant? You have to be prepared to make a down payment. So even with knock, even with Divi, and it could be 1 month's rent, could be 2 months rent, 3 months rent. If you're doing this with a neighbor or a family member, they may require a certain amount down before going ahead with the contract. You have to be prepared to qualify for a mortgage. So, for example, even if the term is 10 years, so you're going to rent to own and you'll pay it off over 10 years, well, what if 9 years comes and you still have a great amount to pay? Well, to pay off the loan, you have to get financing. Because if you walk away, you've lost all that money, right? Everything, the money, the house goes back to the seller. Again, it depends how the contract was drawn up. So, but be prepared, even if you're doing the rent to own, be prepared to qualify for a mortgage. Now, there's a risk to both buyers and sellers. So if you're a buyer and you're doing the rent to own, and I just said you need to be prepared to qualify for a mortgage, well, what if you can't? Well, what if you can't qualify for a mortgage? Well, then, again, depending how the contract's drawn up, you could be out the money you've paid, and you still have to find a place to live. So that's one of the risks for buyer. For the seller, you have to be, the risk is the renter, is the buyer actually going to make payments on time? Are they going to take care of the house? Well, what if they damage the house while they're in there? Now, listen, I'm a very optimistic person, and I want to trust everybody that people are going to come in and take care of the house. But the reality is not everybody does. So that's a big risk for sellers. So listen, rent to own is possible. There are different iterations of it depending on what companies. As I said, there are many companies doing this, and I just highlighted two I'm familiar with, Home Partners of America and Divi. If you're interested in pursuing this, you can talk to a realtor, you can talk to me. We can search for listings that have seller financing available, and we can go from there. Listen, this may not be an option for everybody. It could be an option. So let's talk about that. I want to be your trusted advisor, and I truly appreciate this comment and question by Talon. So please, if you have topics you want to learn about, hear about, please go to my website, joebrownc21.com. You can email me. You can search for listings. Oh, but I want to talk about that. So if you go to my website, joebrownc21, I do have some custom searches set up already, like condos on Bayshore, South Tampa waterfront homes. But there's a whole list of projects that Beggins Enterprises is doing over at Madeira Beach, down in Apollo Beach. Really some great beach properties for both investments and personal. So go to my website, check those out. You can leave comments on this YouTube channel, and I see those. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I enjoy sharing this information with you. I enjoy teaching. So until next week. Oh, next week is going to be market update, see how the market did in July. So have a great week. Bye-bye.